Welcome to Living Beyond Ceramics Challenges with Kelvin Crosby, the deaf-blind potter.
Today's topic is, why am I working with red clay? Obviously, we talked a little bit about struggles with glazing with white clay, but now that I've had a few weeks to playing around with the red clay, how does the deaf-blind potter make pottery with red clay? It's gonna be interesting because it seems like a common sense thing that, oh, you just grab clay, throw it on a wheel, and it will just work. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not that easy. And it's also muscle memory. Think about it. I've been using white clay for over 18 years because it got some properties to it that essentially I call it lying to me. It's the same thing with porcelain. Like, if you played with porcelain, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is what I'm learning with this red clay. So let's go into, what does red clay feel like? It's like mud with sand, but it's also like maybe like toothpaste with sand in it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's it. Cause honestly, it's like toothpaste, like a high end like baking soda, and 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 it dries so differently than the white clay. Like the white clay, the B mix, it dries and you can feel it. You're like, okay, I got that. That's workable. But this, it's like it dries, but it feels rough. And I'll never forget my first year of taking college classes in ceramics. My professor said, "You're gonna throw a bubblegum clay," which I highly don't recommend you do. Um, it is an interesting clay, but bubblegum clay is very. You have to throw it really thick. So let's talk about the the red clay properties. So obviously there's grog in it, and a lot of times grog, depending on who makes the clay and where you get it from, all that stuff. Grog is either a high fired sand. It is either a already broken down into little fine dust particles of ceramic broken pieces, or it is rocks that have been broken down into fine. And so it really depends on who you get your clay from, what their purpose is, all of that. You're gonna find that grog clay does different things. So in this case, the grog in this clay that I'm using, this red clay, is broken clay particles. And so broken down into really fine clay particles, which is great, because when it fires, the shrinkage rate won't be as much. And so when I fire it, it'll feel almost like as I made it. It does still. I was surprised at this when I looked at the shrinkage rate for this red clay. It is still at 15%, which is what B mix the shrinkage rate was. And I think what I have to do is, and this is where that toothpaste feeling in this red clay, I think it is full of water. Like, it is beyond normal levels of clay that we normally work with that has water in it. It is a very wet clay. Like, it is weird. Thinking about, so when you start throwing this clay, you have to think about, you're gonna throw this you're gonna throw this thicker than what you would throw with porcelain or B mix or a non grog clay. And that is something to be aware of. Is that when you throw with grog, you do need to throw thicker. Not terribly much thicker, but if you want that clay to last and to be able to sustain its shape, sustain its trimming and carving, anything that you're going to do in it, it needs to be thrown thicker. So I would say, I would say maybe 4 millimeters thicker than what you would throw. What is that called? V-mix or porcelain. As a deafblind person, I'm having to remember, like, think about it, I have thrown thousands and thousands of pieces with B-mix. So my muscle memory and my feeling and everything is is truly fine tuned to B-mix. And like the bowl that I made, it is thrown thick. I didn't want to mess it up. I wanted to be successful, but it is actually fairly light, which I was really surprised once it got the bone dry that it was fairly light, and I was like, this is gonna be interesting. So it'll be interesting when I put it in the kiln and what that looks like. And so this is the other part I wanted to get into regards to the mug, the mug that I put together. And for those that have been watching my videos on the shorts, um, that mug did not make it. I do apologize. I mean, if only I videotaped the struggle that I had in getting it to smooth out correctly and the feel proper. And I think you would have understood my struggle. And the other thing is with B-mix clay, I can squeeze it out thin. Like I can squeeze out the hand, and then I just smooth it down. And then like any bumps, unevenness, whatever, I just kind of smooth it down, or I cut it off. It works just fine. So that's where my struggle is right now. Is not necessarily that I can't do it. It's a matter of, can I get the clay to be my style and to look like a deafblind potter piece. Obviously, if you go to the website, deafblindpotter.com, you're gonna see my mugs. There's a there's a specific there is a specific style to my mugs. So for those that have been asking me lately, Calvin, why do what makes you feel good? I'm not gonna do that. Um, I'm gonna do what helps me heal through my daily struggles, and that is making the same piece over and over and over again, and then making videos that encourage, making vases that are big, that shows that I can do the work like somebody that can see. So a couple other things with red clay, you must score and slip your piece with the clay that I have. Unlike V-Mix, I don't have to quite do that. I can kind of push it on, get it wet, and it'll stick. And it won't pull off once it dries. But with this, you need to really score and slip it. The other thing that I'm learning is that when you trimming, it was actually fairly straightforward, but the grog kept getting in my way. Excuse me. With my finger, couldn't quite get it to work, and it wasn't working. And then I got the rock, and I kind of put it there, and that made a difference. And so what I'm realizing, varnishing the clay is really important, whether you're gonna glaze it or not. If you really want to have a good, smooth process with grog clay, red clay is different. All that to say, thanks for being here with Living Beyond Ceramic Challenges with the Deafblind Potter. And as I always say, go live beyond your challenges, and I will see you next week.
When you buy a deafblind potter piece, you're not just getting art, you're funding the production of the See Me cane, a life-saving, lighted white cane that brings safety and independence to those with blindness. Shop now at deafblindpotter.com